Okay, so today I wanted to make a video that was inspired by something that I heard on the radio today. It was a discussion that two people were having about how some people try to argue that slavery was not a contributing factor leading to the American Civil War. Well, I've heard people try to argue that point. Usually they're people who have some vested interest in trying to, keep a positive image in their minds of the Confederacy and the values that it stood for. Now, if you want to argue that the North was not particularly interested in abolishing slavery, especially, at the start of the Civil War, I would certainly agree that, while abolitionism may have been more popular in the North, I don't think that it was really the majority opinion that most people held. I think most people probably didn't really care too much one way or another what happened. The Fugitive Slave Act, I think, did make more people aware of slavery, but in general I think people were, probably pretty apathetic about it, and I know that Abraham Lincoln, I don't think, really started out with the intention either of abolishing slavery. And I don't think that the Civil War was fought per se in order to eliminate slavery. But I do think that the main reason that the South seceded was because they felt that slavery was being threatened. And they felt like they were losing power and influence in the United States as a whole. They didn't feel like Abraham Lincoln was pro-slavery enough or pro-South enough. He never really came out and said that he favored eliminating slavery, but he certainly had concerns about it, the morality of it, and I think they're valid concerns. So some people want to argue that states' rights was a contributing factor in the South seceding from the Union. Now, if you want to talk about states' rights to own slaves, then sure. But I think that if you ignore the slavery question, which was, let's face it, a very big business for a lot of rich, influential people in the South, even if most Southerners themselves didn't own slaves. Most of the rich people, I think, probably did and made their living because they did. So I think that was the main problem. And, while I was researching doing this topic, I was reading through some discussion boards and things online, and somebody that was trying to defend the South actually had the nerve to say that the South seceded because they felt they were being taxed without representation, which really threw me, because the whole Three-Fifths Compromise in the Constitution basically gave Southerners, especially slaveholders, an undue influence. They were given the power to vote on behalf of their slaves, and slaves were counted as 3/5 of a person. But were they really representing the interests of their slaves? Hell no, they weren't. So I just thought that was particularly outrageous for someone to say. as a justification as to why, you know, the South seceded, and that was just crazy. I think there are a lot of things that you can use to counter the idea that the South didn't secede because of slavery. A few things that I saw online was talking about how it was explicitly laid out in the Confederate Constitution that, you know, that the slavery was going to continue in perpetuity, and, you know, that anyone that tried to interfere with that, you know, wasn't going to be tolerated. And I mean, already before the Civil War happened, really after the Nat Turner Rebellion, is when southern states really started to sort of freak out about the whole abolitionist question. And of course you had slave rebellions in Haiti and other places too that, you know, made slaveholders paranoid about, you know, giving slaves ideas about rebelling, and any kind of abolitionist literature was pretty much illegal in many parts of the South. I don't think that they would have done that if they weren't concerned about slavery remaining legal. I think they were definitely very much concerned about slavery remaining legal. And they really didn't like people questioning the morality of it at all. There's something else I was going to mention. I guess that's about it. But yeah, there were also statements at the time, you know, Confederate leaders and people who joined the Confederacy that talked about how, you know, they felt like slavery was, you know, an institution worth defending. And yeah, I understand why there's a lot of people that want to deny that part of history, because it's so ugly and so, you know, not politically correct today. But yeah, if you're not honest about history and the way it went, even if you don't like it, how can you honestly confront the present and what's going on now and how the history affected that? It's just, you know, I've grown up in the South all my life, and I don't particularly like the history, but, you know, it is what it is. And the history of the United States overall really isn't all that great when it comes to its treatment of minorities. And then when you look at how African Americans were basically re-enslaved using the justice system, criminal justice system, after the Civil War, I think it's pretty clear that Southern business people, you know, had a very vested interest in keeping slavery around, and didn't want to let go of it. And, you know, that even if that wasn't a main motivation of the North to go to war with the South, you know, obviously I think the North was just trying to keep the South in the Union, and, you know, didn't want them to secede. But I don't think you can really plausibly argue that slavery was not the contributing factor as to why the South felt compelled to secede. You know, there probably were some other factors, but from my understanding of history, you know, slavery was the overriding factor. And I just don't like it when people try to deny history and live in denial that way. I just don't think that it's helpful at all. So that's all that I wanted to say. Thank you for watching my video.